I'll talk about prelims specifically. So while your basic preparation is the same, for prelims, I personally found it one of the most challenging phases of this examination as compared to the mains and interview. I found the prelims most challenging because I always felt that there was a matter of luck also involved in it. The questions sometimes were very random, but I think I still managed to clear it both times, and the reason maybe, looking back, at that time I was as nervous as any of all of you, but I again tried to stick to the basics. So firstly, the previous 3-4 months before the mains exam, before the prelims examination, I devoted mainly to prelims. At that time, mains preparation went into a backseat around 3 to 4 months. If you have not cracked this examination before, if it's the first time you're appearing, or if it's something that you regularly fail in, if you failed 2 prelims, then you can probably increase that time. You can go from 3 to 4 months, or even some people even take 5 months for complete prelims preparation. But mainly I think basic books are very important. And if you look at the questions in the past 2 years or 3 years, it's not something that you'll get out of a book straight. But if you have an understanding of the concept, and that's where conceptual understanding becomes important. You should not read a book just for completing that book. You know, I've read that book. The reading that book is not important, understanding it is important. So if there are certain concepts in, say, geography about folding and faulting of rocks, or science, some science concepts, or some economic concepts about macroeconomic theory, if you're not understanding it, go look at other sources, go and ask a teacher, go and ask a friend, go and look up something on YouTube, some small video that you find about it. Understand what it means so that you can better apply it in the prelims examination, because a lot of application based questions are being asked. So unless and until you understand the concept, you won't get it. And here I used to focus also a lot on polity and economics, because polity and economics, if you look at analyzed previous year question papers, polity papers are something that you can still prepare for, because you have your basic book, whatever you're relying on, be it Lakshmikant, be it something else, and you basically stick to that book and go through the constitution. So I also went through the BEAR Act, and if you have a basic understanding of all the articles, all that, it's likely that you can answer a lot of polity questions. Similarly for economics, current affairs is there, but more than that, understanding of what is monetary policy, what is fiscal policy will be fruitful in sort of answering those questions. So in terms of time and effect, or time and sort of results that come out of it, I felt polity and economy I used to give a lot of importance in, because I could rely on those subjects. Other things I felt were more random. So this was my personal strategy. Everything should be given importance, but these things you should not leave at all, is something that I'm trying to say. Make sure that your basic things and basic concepts are very, very strong. Secondly, for current affairs, so current affairs, again, I'll talk about it later as well, but for prelims, I used to rely on the yearly compilations. Any sort of yearly compilations of current affairs you get. Some people use monthly compilations as well, so whatever works for you, but make sure that you have one source, because current affairs is a sea of information, and once you get lost in it, some people go through daily current affairs and weeklies, so just make sure that you have one source. Add on it from your newspaper if you read the newspaper. I used to stick to a newspaper as well, but for the prelims I mainly used to rely on the yearly compilations, go through it 2-3 times, and because sometimes people give in a lot of time, and because the nature of examination is changing, you don't get that reward out of it if you spend too much time going through 3 different magazines of current affairs. Thirdly, after your base concept is done, and even in between also, once you complete a subject, try to solve questions of it, and for that you can enroll yourself in any test series or take any questions from the market that you get. So a test series was one thing that used to help me in firstly completing the syllabus and understanding, this is something that if I used to complete economics, I used to go and solve a test of economics. If I used to complete polity, so it gives you an analysis as to how much, how well you have read the basic books. Okay. Apart from that, practice of not just test series but also previous year papers, because previous year papers are important in helping you understand the language of the questions, the nature of the questions, and also the nature is also sometimes that you don't get it from a books. You also get the knack of eliminating questions or getting to know, acha, this is something that I can do if something like that comes, or trying to find corollaries in other papers. So previous year question papers are really important. I often give examples of where even questions are repeated. So say a question on right to privacy being part of which fundamental right was a question that was repeated verbatim. Similarly, there was a question on economics that was repeated within a matter of 2-3 years. So it's a reward that you get. Similarly, questions on history. So last year, I think, the year before this, there was a question on Mongols. And someone who had probably gone back and looked up what the Mongols were when they came to India would have maybe been able to answer the question that came this year. So both here there was a question on Mongols with slight differences, and the other options, if one had analyzed, one could probably answer the question that came this year. So going back to previous year question papers, not only the question but also Google searching other words, other options, looking back at the subject is something that really helped me, which probably helped me get through prelims at both in both years that I gave this examination. So basic books, current affairs, test series practice, at least 3-4 months pehle to I used to do a lot of test series in the last 3 months. Before that also you can beech mein do if you want. It also helps you understand how many questions you want to attempt in the final paper. So if you have good accuracy, some people go for 80 questions or even less, or I personally went for a lot of questions. I went for 90-95 questions, but it depends. So all of that you will analyze when you're doing these test series and you're understanding which questions to attempt, which not to attempt, because negative marking also pulls people down. Apart from that, previous year question papers analysis, not only for practice, but I used to figure out things that I'll make notes of separately, which I couldn't find in any book. So in the previous year papers, if I'm finding a lot of questions on Buddhism and Jainism, and I'm not finding that specific content in a book, so I used to make 1 or 2 page notes based on Google search, based on going through a certain book, and revise them later. Similarly for maps, because maps is something that fetched you 5-6 questions sometimes. So going through maps, so I used to make a timetable before the prelims that every day for the last 2 months I used to devote say 15 minutes or half an hour to just the map questions, because you can't do all of them in one day. So just looking at a certain continent's map or going through certain videos that you find on YouTube, anything like that. So these are things that you have to figure out by analyzing, and these are things that no one will specifically tell you also. You will have to do this hard work yourself. Sometimes you just rely on acha toppers, notes are there, toppers, this thing is there, we'll just go and use it. That process of going through it yourself is also important. Even if you're taking toppers notes, so I used to take sometimes look at toppers answer copies or take toppers notes from certain sources, but making that your own as well, going through that, adding stuff on your own, regularly revising it until you make it your own is also important. Okay, similarly for CSAT, for indexes, schemes, I used to make certain things, certain parts of the day which required regular revision. So I used to do that, devote 10-15 minutes every day, rather than sitting one day entirely where it doesn't all go into your head. So whatever works for you, try to make a timetable that works for you, try to make a schedule that works for you, rather than blindly aping the person next to you, or getting rattled that this person is doing this book, it looks better, maybe he knows more or she knows more. Have faith in yourself. Have faith. Firstly, strategize, and once you strategize, have faith in whatever path you're following by making slight changes that you find necessary. So this was my prelims preparation.